Growing up, definitely I didn't look uh, like the typical Filipino because there's actually a little bit of Chinese ancestry on my dad's side. My sister actually is a lot more darker skinned than I am, so a lot of people don't think that we're related. But you can definitely tell by the nose. You can tell if anyone's Filipino by the nose and the accent. I am a Filipino Canadian, and I find a lot of people or a lot of children who grew up as the first generation of their family find a disconnect between their heritage versus where they come from. And growing up, my parents were very avid in having my sister and I do everything to know our culture. So the only way that really myself and my sister, my family here could really understand our culture is through food. And food is such a great way to bring families together. I could remember even back in the day, my dad like barbecuing skewers on the grill when I would go to play basketball at a Filipino Catholic secondary school. There would be titas or aunts that would come up with boxes of noodles and say like, would you want one, would you want one? And it's interesting that what they do here is what they did exactly in the Philippines, and I never knew that till I went my first time in 2007, and I'm like, oh, so this is how they act. It's because that's where they're from. It's weird because growing up you would be proud to be what you're like, who you're from or where you're from, even though you've never been to the Philippines. But when you talk to other kids who are in the same boat as you, I find that they're not as passionate, or they would just disregard their heritage, or they would choose sides, like which parents' culture is a lot better. And I hope in the future, as I continue to inspire the Filipino youth of my local community, that it's okay and you should be proud of both sides because you have something that's unique. And I think that Philippine culture and Canadian culture really connect well, like two puzzle pieces together, because Canada, we're just so multicultural and we're so welcoming of every culture, and that's what's amazing. And Philippines, we have the utmost regard of hospitality. And I think the Canadian culture and Filipino culture have that. And I hope that in the future, children, or maybe my future children, will be proud of who they are inside. Growing up, it was always piano lessons. And so there is something called the Kiwanis Festival here. I believe it's Canada-wide. And you're able to showcase any type of music, whether it's jazz, choral, or piano, or maybe even violin. And one judge or multiple judges would come up and tell you how maybe you can improve it. And so I was playing this piece super nervous, just according to the sheet music, which is how you're supposed to play it. And I thought I did well. The judge comes up, or the adjudicator comes up, and she tells me to play it a different way. And I didn't understand that because I only stuck to what was on the paper. But he played it in a different way within the context of each measure. And I was like, that is so weird. Like, why would you want to change the way that it sounds? And now growing up and not having as many piano lessons, it's really having the freedom to make it your own. I was able to unlock the chains that I placed upon myself, because I thought that you could only be restrictive to what was on the page. But as I looked at it again, there are other ways that you could play it as well. And that's where I have found my love for singing, and that's how I found my love for jazz band, because jazz band, you're able to do solos. I played the alto and tenor sax. Tenor sax was my favorite. And you're able to express yourself in your solo, but jazz is just so different that it just sounds amazing. And so that music has definitely played a big role in my life as well, just breaking the boundaries and pushing yourself to see like what you're capable of. I think I'm just very positive, but sometimes like too positive. But with positivity, you're able to find the good in everything. Like for example, I have food allergies, which is my advocacy. And a lot of people ask me like, oh, you must be so sad that you can't have all these sweet treats, or you can't go to these certain countries that use more nuts because that would put your life at risk. And I said, maybe I can't have these sweets, or maybe I can't visit these countries, but ultimately I'm getting healthier, I'm staying away from sweets, and B, I can take the necessary precautions to go to these countries. I can make my own food. And so that's where my confidence comes from, really stepping up from adversity and just looking at the bright side at everything. Food allergies for me has always been an obstacle, but I never saw it as something that blocked my goals. It was something like in the back of your mind, kind of like that test that you know that you have, but you don't want to study for it. It's there. You know it's there. It's dangerous if you don't do well. So that was my food allergies for me. And growing up, it would change because it would get more serious for me, as anaphylaxis, the symptoms for me would only trigger at a certain time, which makes me one of the deadliest ones, because I could be out in hiking somewhere, and if I eat the wrong thing, then I wouldn't know that I would be allergic to it, or I wouldn't know that I was exposed to the known allergen, which is peanuts and nuts for me. And like, it would be hard for me to get to the nearest hospital or even try to administer medication for myself. I never found any support for my food allergies growing up. In elementary school, it was my mom, who is a registered nurse, with a Mandarin and expired medications. Every year that I would move up into a different grade, she would show the teachers how to do it every year and have them practice it on the orange, and I would just be there sitting and watching, and I would always feel so embarrassed about it, because no one else, there was a few other kids who had it, but we never really talked or had the chance to really talk about our feelings and the side effects that allergies have. And so I stumbled upon Food Allergy Canada, which is a nonprofit organization that helps to spread awareness of food allergies, regardless if it's peanuts, tree nuts, sesame is a big one, and milk, any of the allergies. And they hope to also donate or fundraise for research so that there's better ways that we can manage our food allergies, as well as education and support groups. One thing that I didn't realize about food allergies is that you could also have a lot of anxiety too. And so after I had my recent reaction, which was I was 16, after that my family and I went out to a restaurant, and although I know that I was like pretty good with these type of foods, it was Korean food, I know that they didn't use nuts, but I would feel very cautious of what I was eating. So much so that I would feel that there was something in my throat and I thought that I was reacting. But it was actually an anxiety symptom, and it's called bolus, and it's basically like your throat just kind of swells up a bit and you feel like there's something in the back of your throat that you can't get rid of. And the only way that I could really get rid of this symptom is by listening to music, which is also another passion of mine. So just blending music and support and all those together, I'm able to help other kids as well. We have webinars just as this, and we talk about school, friends, what we do if something goes down, and just being there for each other, which is something I wish that I had growing up.